So, okay, I am a firm believer of person-to-person communication. In other words, word of mouth. They say, despite the internet, still, word of mouth is the quickest way to get communication from one person to the next. And odds are the values and beliefs that you have are because somebody else told you. So we are both red pillars. We talked a little bit about our stories with each other. We're going to share them here. But who is the most responsible in helping you see things the way you do now, at least politically?
Well, I mean, I gotta put God in there because that's how I started. Because I'm like, I can't be believing what somebody telling me about this group of people and police officers. It was like good versus evil to me. And then I started. Then Kanye West said, "I love the way Candace Owens think." Literally, that's how it happened for me. I was already kind of seeing things differently and living my own reality, and not about what the TV was saying. And then I'm on Twitter and everybody like, "What is Kanye West talking about?" And then I'm like, "Who is Candace Owens?"
Like, who's that?
And after that, it's been history. I'm like, okay, I agree with this. I believe that. Oh, I've been lied to. I'm not a victim. I can do whatever, It was just, that's kind of how it happened for me. So
that's
Candace,
solid.
I guess
That's
Kanye
solid.
West, you can give him the credit. God and Kanye West.
God and Kanye West. I mean,
yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he really did open a lot of eyes on certain ends, because mine was a little bit different. It was also Candace, but it was through Dave Rubin and the Rubin Report. And I don't know how he ended up on my feed, but it was his demeanor that really got my attention, I think, because I just wasn't a YouTube watcher. I guess I had a lot of time on my hands, so I just kind of was strolling through my feed, and he popped up, and I think it was the fact that he was talking to an African-American woman. I was like, I just don't usually see this, like in the commentaries, I don't usually see a lot of people interviewing young African-American females. I was like, what is this about? Yeah. And then she was talking about Red Pill Black, and he's like, your story's gone viral, and you've really woken up the African American man. I'm like, African American, what are we waking up about? I was just green as Irish clover. Okay, I was like, what are they talking about? And she was introducing these concepts to me that honestly I didn't even think were an issue. Okay, I didn't even think the issues she was bringing up were a problem. Now, granted, this is coming from someone who literally lives in a city where across the train tracks, the races are different. Okay, if you want to talk about race, you can literally hear say, across the train tracks, that is where you will find X. In this case, that is where you will find the white people. And if you are on that side, you will tell your friends and family, across the train tracks, that is where you will find the black people. This is a very segregated area, and it's just because we've held on to a lot of really ancient crap. But I, living here, still didn't believe there was a race problem. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really like, what is she talking? Why is she just pounding on there's no such thing as racism in this country? I'm like, no one's crying about race. And then I backtracked on what the media was actually hounding Trump about. And it really was. They kept pulling this race card. And every single time the media wanted to help blacks feel like there was something that they were fighting on our behalf for, it was always racism. It wasn't just, economic status. It wasn't just, poor schools and certain demographics. No, it was just flat out, well, blacks won't be able to do X, Y, Z because of their skin color. And I'm like, wow, this hasn't gone away. And she just had a whole other, way of looking at things. And I was very impressed. And I was just really impressed by her demeanor. And I stepped into a whole new world. So I guess that's kind of how I would say I learned about.
So you were already kind of on the conservative side, though?
I was already conservative, but I didn't realize just how dire the situation was for our community, namely the black community. I didn't realize just how vulnerable we are by not really understanding how our political system works and how sometimes, it's caused our victimization. I won't even say sometimes. I always say a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah, I agree.
It's just because we're not following on the patterns. We don't want to plug in. And I just was a creature of habit. I just felt like, you just wash, rinse, repeat. Like, if it's working, it's because it works. And if it's not working, you need to stop doing that and do something else. It really had nothing to do with class, money, race, language, color, creed, or anything. But when it boils down to what we're facing right now in our nation as a minority,
it's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah, it's almost like there is this kind of construct to keep us as a minority that's constantly trying to get ahead. And you're like, what the heck? Like,
yeah.
So, but that kind of goes into one of my other questions for you. I want to know, what do you think, in your opinion, the Black community is most guilty of?
Ooh, that's a good question.
In terms of holding themselves back, because now we're all killed, and we're like, we're not being held back. There's a horrible narrative telling us that we're victims, and we're not. But there are some things we need to work on. So, like, what do you think we seriously need to work on as African Americans?
Ooh, girl, they gonna come after me with this answer.
Are they gonna come after us? We'll edit this out.
Yeah, no, you know how I told you in the message. I ain't never scared.
Yeah, girl, you be bringing fire. So I'm like, okay, now I don't know if I should be a little nervous, because if you're finna bring it home, I probably should be a little nervous. Legit.
Well, let me see how to answer